First at 4, a devastating fire at a world-famous landmark. You're looking at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. We have the newest information on this breaking story, and Paula Tutman.
Good afternoon, I should say. A federal lawsuit being charged against 36th District Court with the charge that while Lady Justice is supposed to be blind, that this court instead sees green, the color of money. I will explain in a live report.
And considering where we were yesterday, this doesn't look half bad, but is this as nice as it's going to get all week? Your forecast is next, first at 4.
Local 4 News begins right now with a breaking news alert.
We start with the breaking news the world is following this hour. The Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris is burning. The landmark is 850 years old. The city of Paris has been watching in horror. Devin Scillian monitoring the battle to save as much of the building as possible. Devin, this is very tough to watch.
Well, it certainly has been, Karen. Notre Dame in the heart of Paris. No doubt this fire is breaking hearts all over Paris, but all over the world as well, as it's the most visited city in the world. It began with reports of flames on the roof near the spire of the cathedral, and before long, flames and smoke were filling the early evening sky. Flames that began on the roof then spread quickly, and before long, they had engulfed that classic, iconic spire of the cathedral. Glowing red and orange, it tilted and then tumbled into the flames below. Notre Dame Cathedral was built between the 12th and 14th centuries. It's Gothic architecture known for the flying buttresses which stand outside the structure, helping hold up the walls and paving the way for so many similar structures in centuries following that. It's said that a forest of trees was used for the wooden frame, and now most of that frame is believed to have been consumed by the fire. President Trump, traveling in Minnesota, took time to comment on the loss.
It's one of the great treasures of the world, the greatest artists in the world. Probably, if you think about it, I would say, Jovita, it might be greater than almost any museum in the world, and it's burning very badly. It looks like it's burning to the ground.
Despite the immensity of the fire, there have been no reports of injuries. Speculation about the cause, though, centers on the renovation work that has been going on at the cathedral. That's just guesswork right now because nothing has been confirmed about how this started. But right now we have this live look at the cathedral. It is just after 10 p.m. right now, a 6-hour time difference to Paris. We're told there are firefighters inside and outside at this time, so that means at least they finally have been able to get in. French President Emmanuel Macron is on the scene as well. Local 4 and Click on Detroit will continue to monitor the situation in Paris. We'll have updates in our coming newscasts on NBC Nightly News, and we'll continue to update it on clickondetroit.com. Karen, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Devin. It was an emotional day in court at the sentencing of a man convicted in a deadly double shooting. A judge has sentenced Vernest Griffin to life in prison without the chance of parole. He did not go to court, refusing to leave his jail cell. Last February, Griffin shot and killed a co-worker in Taylor and another co-worker in Pontiac. Police say this was all part of a multi-county crime spree. During sentencing, the sister of one victim had strong words.
Keith did not deserve to die in the fashion in which he did. Mr. Griffin did not murder my brother. He massacred them.
We also have emotional reaction from after the judge handed down the sentence. Our coverage continues at 5 o'clock. It was a quick day in court at the retrial of former MSP trooper Mark Bessner. Shortly after the jury walked into the courtroom, the judge asked both lawyers to his chambers. They talked behind closed doors for about an hour and a half. And then when they got back to the courtroom, the judge said there was a major legal issue that needed to be worked out but did not share details. She sent the jury home. The trial is expected to continue tomorrow. Well, spring in Michigan has ups and downs. We all know that. It's hard to know what's coming next. That's why we need meteorologist Ben Bailey to say, hey, what's going to go on tonight?
And Karen, I tell you, I think we'd love to have had this yesterday, but we take it where we can get it this time of year, and the sunshine is out. Temperatures pretty close to what we would see for average this time of year. Winds are noticeable, about 10 to 15 miles an hour. They will calm down tonight, but the clouds will be on the increase, and we've got quite a bit of April showers to discuss in the forecast coming up. But for the rest of tonight, we're going to stay dry. The only real change is going to be the clouds increasing. Temperatures down to around 40 degrees at midnight. It's going to be a cool start tomorrow, but we've got multiple wet days to look at as we get towards the holidays this weekend. All that's in your 7-day forecast ahead. Karen?
All right, thank you, Ben. The 36th District Court in Detroit has become one of several test cases as the ACLU files a federal suit against bail practices. Bail is used to make sure defendants show up for their trials, but the ACLU argues it's being used to unconstitutionally incarcerate mostly poor, mostly black defendants. Paula Tutman takes a look at a battle playing out across the country.
Today, the ACLU filed a civil suit charging that the majority of people who move through this particular court, as well as courtrooms throughout the state and the nation, use a system of cash bails to unfairly incarcerate mostly poor, mostly black defendants. Consider this, a 17-year-old kid in the burbs who comes from privilege could be accused of the same crime as a 17-year-old kid in the city and be given the same $50,000 bond. And the kid who comes from means will be able to bond out of jail to await adjudication, while the poor kid is denied due process and his constitutional rights. The family of 17-year-old Kushan Moore Jr. says he has been in jail 5 days.
Kushan does not have a criminal record. He's never been in trouble a day in his life. He's still in high school. He's missing school now.
Accused of armed robbery, but can't get out because they can't afford the bond.
I try to explain to him he can't come home because we can't afford for him to come home.
What the ACLU is charging is that 36th District Court and other courts around the country are violating the Constitution, incarcerating poor people through a pay-to-play system of bonds that paint all cases with the same broad brush. It means a man accused of vagrancy for sleeping on a park bench, for instance, a low misdemeanor, could ostensibly spend months in jail on a bond of $100 because he can't afford to bond out, while a high-risk criminal could get out of jail because money is not a problem.
Under our cash bail system, a person who has money is allowed to immediately buy their way out of jail, while a person without financial resources stays locked up. This two-tier system is cruel, unfair, and unconstitutional.
The ACLU wants a complete system overhaul that, number one, eliminates a mandatory system of bail, while also taking individual crimes and circumstances into consideration beyond a few minutes in an arraignment, so that justice is less about the ability to pay to get out while waiting for a trial than the inability to pay to get out while waiting for a trial.
The majority of people locked up in our local jails have not been convicted of a crime. After an arrest, wrongful or not, a person's ability to leave jail and return home while they fight their charges depends on whether they can afford to pay bail.
So the website for 36th District Court indicates it is the busiest court in the state with 29 total judges and 5 magistrates. In a written statement, the chief judge writes, the court does not comment on pending litigation when a court is a named party. And again, I do need to remind you that it's not just this court being sued by the ACLU, but several other courts around the nation in an effort to change the bail system.
All right, thank you very much, Paula. Communities across a large swath of the country are today dealing with the destruction brought by a wave of violent weather. At least 8 people are dead, more than a dozen confirmed tornadoes, and storm damage extending from Texas across the Gulf Coast, all the way up to the Carolinas, as far north as Ohio. Some areas between Houston and Dallas were hit by back-to-back tornadoes. Saturday, one twister was driven by winds of 140 miles an hour. 2 young brothers were killed when a tree fell and then crushed their family's car. The storms then moved across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. There was heavy rain that resulted in flooding in many areas, but the signature feature of the storms was the high winds that uprooted trees, tore roofs off of homes and businesses, and in one Alabama community, actually lifted up a mobile home and then dropped it on the home next door.
Saw the trailer flying over and land on their house. The power poles were sparking out the top, and then there was like a funnel that you could see the debris just going in it, and then it was over.
Storms powered up Sunday in Ohio with at least 1 tornado reported in Shelby, Ohio. That's south of Cleveland. Police reported 10 people with minor injuries and several homes and farm buildings heavily damaged. The line of storms swept up through Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania today, injuring at least 10 people and causing widespread property damage. Congress and the public will get their first look at the extensive Robert Mueller report, and that happens in just 2 days. The 400 pages will be redacted to cover sensitive information. Mueller finished his so-called Russia investigation last month. So far, we've only seen a 4-page summary from Attorney General William Barr. He says the report does not find collusion with Russia, but reaches no conclusion about obstruction of justice. The Justice Department says the report will be released on Thursday morning. Still ahead, first at 4, as tax season ends, there is a growing scam targeting other personal information. We have 3 things that you should know now to help you protect yourself. And more summer flights canceled. Take a look at the growing impact of the Boeing safety scandal. And we are following a fire at Notre Dame in Paris. This beautiful and historic cathedral has been burning for a few hours. Right now, we're told the entire wooden frame of the cathedral is likely to come down. Emergency crews are trying to save many priceless works of art. Construction workers were doing renovations. That work could be connected to that fire, but it is too early to confirm that. Luckily, no reports of injuries. We'll bring you updates as needed, and of course, new information tonight at 5. We'll be right back.